Welcome back, everyone. This is episode
11.
11 of the Movie Bros podcast. We're your hosts, Hayden and Duncan Scott, brothers who sit and talk about movies every once in a while.
Do this weekly.
We try to be as weekly as possible,
Trying to get a bit of a schedule going.
somewhat. We are in the same room on separate mics because
We're having some recording issues going through one
we are
mic.
just figuring some things out.
I call that issues. I feel like that's applicable. However,
Either way, if you hear anything like popping or not popping or echoes or anything like that, be honest and let us know. That way we can address that. And if you don't, be honest and tell us that there wasn't any of those things, so we know that we figured it out or not.
and the best places to do that are either in the review sections of our Spotify page, or you can go to our Instagram page, the_movies_bros.
No, it's the _movie bros.
He knows it. I don't.
Either way, that's what this is. This week we're going to be talking about the true history of the Kelly Gang. Hayden, why don't you take away some of the
Here's
facts?
some call sheet facts for you. This was released in the year 2020. It's directed by Justin Kurzel, who I know from a really good Macbeth adaptation with Michael Fassbender. On the other hand, he's also attached to a really crappy Assassin's Creed movie, so you can really run the gambit of quality here.
I saw a little bit of the Macbeth, and it visually looked really cool. I got lost.
You have to really like iambic pentameter. I really love
What? What?
iambic pentameter. Is
Why don't you just say Shakespearean, dude?
Because I want to show that I know things sometimes.
Okay, all right.
It is not a translated adaptation. It is straight from the Shakespearean language to the screen, which I personally really like.
I could not do it.
I really love hearing Shakespeare performed. It scratches that itch that sometimes Tarantino dialogue and The West Wing will sometimes do, where it's a lot of fast-paced, super wordy back and forth.
Makes sense.
It is certainly not for everyone, and I understand why you may not have enjoyed that. However, if that's up your street, the Macbeth version is really good. I would not recommend Assassin's Creed to anyone. It is garbage.
I don't know why I had this hankering. Like, I've been thinking about this the last couple days. I was like, I never saw it.
Trust me, you are missing next to nothing. There are some interesting sequences, but for the most part, it's incredibly forgettable. So something I didn't know is that he also directed a movie called The Snowtown Murders, which I saw probably a decade ago when I still lived with my parents in my bedroom. That is something I watched maybe through Netflix, but it also could have been something I borrowed from the library. In any event, that is also, much like today, a Australian-based, very slow, methodical, lots of zoom-in shots, lots of fuzzy photography. It's very much the same sort of feeling as what we just watched. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. The other things I've written down here, this stars George McKay, who, if you know his face, you'll know him from 1917. This was advertised as being a Russell Crowe vehicle, and he's in this for all of maybe 5 minutes.
The poster has him and Charlie Hunnam.
Yes, both of these people have, to varying degrees, maybe 3 or 4 scenes between them.
And I mean,
and they do find in those scenes, but it is, I would say, tantamount to false advertising to say this is their movie.
Well, I'm sure they probably had a good amount of producing to it.
I didn't look, but I would not be shocked.
Yeah. Especially with what I know about Russell Crowe's background, like personally, and it's in a country that he is like.
Well,
yeah.
Russell Crowe is Australian, I believe,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that would make a whole lot of sense. So I don't have anything else written down for this other than who starred in it, and also this is done by the music.
I keep thinking Dylan Holt, but it's
Nicholas Holt from lots and lots.
He's done quite a bit. I feel like he's
from some of the prequel X-Men movies, from The Great.
He's done all kinds of stuff.
A ton of things.
I mean, this is a little bit further ahead, but I said Nicholas Holt, I think, is underrated because he's done a ton of stuff. I mean, most everything I've seen him in, he's pretty good. He's never been like.
He's never
been the guy.
He's never been a leading man, I don't think. I think he's always played second fiddle with someone.
I mean, he plays a good second fiddle, but he's.
Sure.
Yes, he's never been the guy.
I apologize. I'm sitting in a very creaky chair. I hope it doesn't come across.
You want to just get into general thoughts then, Hayden?
I mean, the only other thing I would say is that Justin Kurzel also often works with his brother Jed, who does the musicianship on this. He also did the music for Alien Covenant, which I enjoy a lot and I own physically. The music in this is also very similar. It's lots of slow, low tone cello and like string instruments. It sounds very moody and interesting, but it's less interesting here than it's been in the past. That's kind of the only thing other than just general thoughts that I have. Why don't we rush through some stuff?
I think we did references at the beginning when we were watching it, but this was produced by IFC, yeah?
This is an IFC film.
It definitely felt like A24 before A24 was A24.
Yes. If you're listening and don't know what IFC is, or maybe perhaps was, is better
Yeah,
the
it's
description.
still a channel,
It may still be a cable channel. We haven't had cable in
but
like
we have cable at my work, and
a
it's
very long
still a
time.
channel. It's just
So they do independent productions, kind of the same thing that Neon does,
it was
as
like
well
it
as
was like a awkward brother to like AMC kind of thing.
yes, I think they may be owned by them in the same way that like car companies will own other car companies and still claim to be in competition.
Sure.
So one of the things I've written down here is that for the short amount of time that Russell Crowe is on screen, he looks great. He's got a great Jeff Bridges kind of beard. Reminded me of Rooster Cogburn from True Grit a lot.
Yeah, I wrote Russell Crowe is great, but not enough in this. Because
You're right, but I don't feel like you could put him in. I can't keep facing this way. I don't feel like you could put him in and have it make much more sense.
fair, I think his part of the story served its purpose. I just thought the story was going to be much different.
Yeah, so this is, as the name would imply, it would have.
It was.
I
We
was
definitely
expecting this
thought
to
of
be a lot more of like a quicker paced crime movie in the West. Arguably, that's on us for not doing more
sure,
research
sure.
before watching this. But it's also, this was definitely the intent of the people who made the promotional art for this movie. That you are expecting to watch a Charlie Hunman and Russell Crowe vehicle, and it's really not.
Which would have been dope. I like that pairing actually. I thought it would
It
be an
still would have
interesting
been
pairing.
good, but we're going to talk about the movie we watched, not the
Yes.
movie we wish we would have seen. So this is based on a play, and that play is based on a book. And what I have written down is that sometimes doesn't always lead to the best adaptations. And I feel like you can feel it here because the first act of this movie,
You mean boy,
yes. So this is split up into boy, then
man,
man, then
monitor.
monitor, and it's about the different times and
This guy's life, basically.
yes. However, you can take out almost all of boy and lose no plot.
Well, I
And
get why they had it.
exactly, I know why it's there, but
But
it slows the movie down so much.
15 minutes of the movie at least was boy. Man was like 40 minutes at least. Monitor was only like
Monitor was
15
essentially
minutes.
the last scene where he, we're skipping ahead here, where he dons his cast iron armor and
Which
dies.
is a real thing. Like
Yes.
I like people like this is a real thing. I did find pretty much throughout the entire movie, the cinematography was interesting.
I love the lighting.
The lighting was really cool.
Lots of candlelight, lots of fire.
Yes.
It made it look very mysterious and interesting lots of the
What I
time.
also thought is it looked almost more like, for lack of a better word, it almost looked like film photography that was moving rather than like.
Explain what you mean by that.
It just looked like something like if you pause it, it would look like something you shot on film, like a 35 millimeter camera, kind of. Maybe it's just because I've been shooting 35 millimeter camera, but like no, but I'm just saying that's what it looked like. It didn't
No, that's fair. That's fair.
like this like production, for lack of a better word.
That's true. There was a certain amount of. I don't feel like there was a whole lot of different takes with a lot of these things. A lot of it felt like they were shooting this for the one time and then moving on. There wasn't.
Yes.
There was lots of things that. It's so. I was going to actually come to this, but one thing I've written down here is that there is lots of pulled out shots of the characters that look really nice and really panoramic, and then lots of shots where they're closer to the character and the camera's moving around a lot, and it feels like it's being filmed by someone just holding like a 90s era handy cam to film it. and that's interesting, but I think that leads it to the organic feel of those scenes where I don't feel like they were the same every time they shot it, if they shot it twice at all.
Mhm. Just like all the snorri cam stuff of it, like where
Oh
the
yeah,
camera's strapped to him, facing him.
all the time that he's running around in the woods,
Yes,
shooting at cops when we're into the third final act, it's incredibly shaky.
yes. Which I'm sure that's on purpose.
Sometimes it works, sometimes I don't feel like it worked very well.
Correct. The to jump back towards Charlie Hunnam and Russell Crowe, the tourniquet cock.
That's what I've written down. The whole
Dude, shoot his cock off.
I was gonna try and say it nicer, but yes, the whole
Hey,
shoot his cock off scene,
that's the line.
like, absolutely marks the turning point of the tone of this movie.
Yes.
Like, that is so out of nowhere and tense and
When he was like,
insane.
I was like, oh, it's gonna be Charlie Hunnam.
Well, we were both kind of right. So you guessed he was going to bring him Charlie Hunnam, and I guessed, okay, he's going to show him a naked lady because it's a house of prostitution, let's say.
Kind of thing.
Okay, like that made sense, sort of. And we were both kind of right. Charlie Hunnam was with a female companion,
Yes.
and then there was all of that happens,
Yes.
and I don't feel like we need to explain the
But
whole line of shoot his cock off probably explains it.
especially when I say tourniquet cock, yeah.
Oh,
Throughout
hate it.
both from Russell Crowe, from Charlie Hunnam, and especially his mom, who is super fucked up.
Like,
I
there
wrote,
was so much of this movie that could have been avoided if his mom just like calm down.
I wrote
and
nature versus nurture PTSD, because
Like,
man, the amount of stuff
there is, I mean,
could have been fine.
not to mention Macbeth, but there is a lot of Lady Macbeth
I'm sure.
tendencies where a lot of the problems arise because she won't stop putting her hands in
Yeah,
other
yes.
things and pushing her family to do
I think
random
like
weird
towards the
shit.
beginning when the other lady was like, "Oh, I'll take him to school with my son." That could
Right?
have been it. That could
Like,
have been it, dude.
all of this could have been avoided if you just let took your little goblin hands off your children.
And slightly incestuous vibes and also slightly gay vibes in the movie.
That's what I've written. So there is a lot of cross dressing in this.
Well, the cross-dressing hasn't.
Some of it is explained, some of it is explained, some of it isn't, and
There was
there's also just a lot of male nudity. There's a lot of dudes without pants being real close to other dudes without pants and hugging each other, and like
he's with his mate
yes, his mate,
Joe. Or all I wrote was
my best friend Joe, who I cuddle with.
I just
Yes,
said a question mark because I was like, what?
it's never explained. It's very odd. Again, so this is based off real history, so maybe that was a thing, but like, feels weird.
Yes.
Made the scenes uncomfortable, and it didn't feel like it added a whole lot.
Before it hit man, I have it's not a good joke at all, but I wrote Kelly getting with a Kelly snore. It doesn't even make any
Folks,
sense.
this is what I deal with on a daily basis.
But yeah, I would say the first, if the movie's 2 hours, I would say the first hour and 10 at least isn't.
I don't know about an hour and 10. I would say right up until the point where we actually do meet Russell Crowe,
Yeah.
nothing happens.
Okay.
You probably could have started there and then just had him talk over
Yes. Which
in a monologue tone, which he does a lot anyway, so it would have fit.
I like his narration.
Yeah.
His I said some narration poetry I actually really liked. Like
It
I also like
came
that it's
across
not-
as well spoken without being overly wordy.
yes,
And
exactly.
that is sometimes the trap that movies will fall into, where, oh, if we have someone talking over a scene, we got to have them talk as much as possible. No, you don't need to just use, I hate to use the quote here. God, I can't remember what it is. Duncan, save me. I'm embarrassing myself.
On that note, I don't know what the fuck that was.
I apologize.
But speaking of the cinematography, there's several points with the movie where there is like almost epileptic flashing.
There's a strobe light that happens, and sometimes it makes sense. Like the final scene where there's a shootout against the metal bunker.
Cool.
There's a strobe light, and it makes all of the cops' clothes like light up bright white, and it makes them stand out against the night sky. That's very cool.
But
Other times it happens. Why is it happening?
When I first saw it when it was the cops, and I was like, "Is this a bunch of Klansmen? What is this?" And then I realized, no, it's just like ponchos that they're wearing.
That's the right time period, but the wrong continent.
I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" But yes, I'm curious if I actually looked into the background if there was an actual reason for the epileptic stuff throughout the movie. Just
Probably just artistic.
sometimes it would be him imagining what was going to happen, and then there were some times where he was seeing what was going to happen.
That's another thing I've written down here is that the plot is like a 60-40 of 60% of the time what we're watching is probably what actually happened, and 40% of the time is what Ned Kelly, the main character, is either thinking about or like planning about
Mhm.
or
Well,
wanting to have happen.
but
Like there's a whole bit where his mom is in jail and he thinks he's gonna steal an ironclad ship and break into the jail and break her free. There's a whole scene of that happening, sort of, and then it never comes to pass. So there are times where this movie plays into fantasy a lot more than it plays into reality. And sometimes that works and sometimes it's just odd.
what I'm curious is because the movie ends with basically a guy telling Ned's story. If he's reading, basically, if the whole movie is reading from his writing, is if some of that writing,
We can have unreliable narrator as a trope.
maybe,
Which I do like it when that shows up in movies, but I like it when I know what's happening. I don't like being lied to the entire movie.
yeah, it just made the movie not. I don't have a problem with movies that are not linear, but they have to at least make sense. And
I think this made sense, more or less.
I'd say more. It made more sense than less sense. But
But there are still parts where it was confusing.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Again, literally 90% of the boy segment you could have cut. Oh,
What else you got?
I wrote down that I feel like this will probably mean or make more sense to Australians. There's lots of supposed history and culture references that will probably be like, oh, this is obviously this has happened, this I've heard about this in school. I didn't know any of that, and I feel like lots of this were not explicitly explained for that reason because they assume Australian audiences will know it. I didn't. There's lots of people who show up that we don't know the names of, and that's probably history that is known in Australia.
Maybe. Yeah.
I also think this is titled wrongly.
It's really not about the Kelly gang. It's about Ned.
It's
Just Ned.
correct,
It should be the true history of Ned Kelly.
which probably would have been fine.
Would have been fine. But if they say Kelly gang, and of course they put certain things on the poster, they're going to get a better response probably.
Indeed. So I've written down. So we're skipping towards the end here, plot wise. There's a scene where they are hiding out in their metal bunker and they've held captive what is essentially like townsfolk, people like that. And so Ned's writing his stuff. He's writing his diary.
There is some
and they
choices that I didn't agree with.
Well, I didn't care about the acting. Well, the whole part where he doesn't say anything and instead just slams his head on the desk for no reason.
Yes.
A little bit weird.
Yeah.
A little bit weird. Well, it's not any better than the guy who is in Ferris Bueller, where this is acting. If I say all my words like this, it means I'm acting.
What are you talking about?
The guy who plays Ferris Bueller. I can't remember his name. Can you? Back to Ned Kelly.
God.
When he's sitting at that desk and he's writing his diary, he brings in one of the hostages to talk to
I
him.
think the hostage asked to see him.
See, that didn't come across to me, and I said, okay, why is he here? Why did he bring him in? But it makes 100% more sense if the hostage asked to be there,
That's the only reason
because
it makes sense.
I was sitting there being confused. Like, okay, so he then asks to see his writing because I'm a teacher. I'm a blah blah blah, right? And like, if Ned himself didn't ask for him to be in there for a specific reason, why is he there? Because it didn't occur to me that the teacher guy asked for himself to be brought in, because why would he? He's had a bag over his head the entire movie.
Well, he gets asked to be brought in, then he can ask to go away / to escape, and warn the is it the British?
So it's the British.
Right? It is the British.
Again, see, this is my issue with not knowing a whole lot about Australian history. It's the British and the Irish.
Yeah.
The British are in control. That's the Nicholas Holt side of things. The Kelly gang, as it were, are the Irish, and the
Which is weird because they were saying they're Irish. But I'm like, I don't overly hear like an Irish accent.
So this might be a bit of a tangent on my end. I listen to a lot of words. I listen to a lot of sea shanties, like pirate music, and there's a lot of talk of Botany Bay
Botany
and
Bay, mate.
I'm trying to explain. It was essentially a penal colony, so it was a prison colony for those with the maturity past a certain age. Penal does not mean dick, okay? It was a prison colony for
Trying to
Irish
get people.
prisoners.
Uh,
Prison colony for Irish
whew.
prisoners on Australia,
Yeah,
and so there became a two caste system of the British in control and then all the quote unquote lawless Irish, which is probably what this is touching upon.
probably.
Have you recovered from penal? Apparently not.
Yeah, I'm good.
Here for the just the most mature takes on earth.
Who was saying potatoes and tomatoes last weekend?
You know, time is a funny thing. I don't remember what I've said, what you've said. You know, it's potatoes, tomatoes.
Penal
It doesn't matter.
never happened. No, that's a sentence.
Hey, for some of us, penal never happens. You know,
I don't need to know. Either way, that's roughly kind of all I had for notes for myself for the movie. You?
the last note and a half I have are essentially saying that a lot of the movie feels like a build up to the ending act, which is normal, but like it doesn't feel like a lot of it works. I guess again, I think I've mentioned this a few times. You could cut down the runtime on this, and it
It's
would
2 hours,
feel a lot more snappy. It would feel a lot more like the scenes had a reason to happen. There's times.
There's a couple of the characters that I don't know if they. Again, it's probably because they're real characters and they had to be put in. But like, I don't know if they needed his not wife and son, and they
Well,
could have trimmed out. They could have made it a much
I
more
actually
like.
disagree with you. I
I don't
think
know.
that character needed to be there because then who's he writing a letter to?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But other than that, there are.
Like,
It's interesting what it
fucking
chose to.
Steve.
It's interesting what it chose to spend its time on because, like, he has two other brothers and a sister that we know almost nothing about at the end of the movie. They spend almost
Gang, and it's just
which again, the movie's about him. I get it, but there are so many other characters that I almost know nothing about, which may have been interesting as well. That they spent almost no time with, but they spent lots of time of aerial shots of trees, and
I liked it.
it was nice looking. It doesn't help the characters. It doesn't help the story make sense and feel like I'm not having my time wasted.
Agreed.
I'm glad I watched this because I think I had this saved in my watch later thing for a while, but because I thought I was going to be watching something else.
Well, now that we've watched this, there's one called Bone Tomahawk. Do you know what this is?
That is also saved in my
Yes,
list, which is I think about cannibals or something.
Well, no, it's a town like fighting off cannibals, which is supposed to be like.
It sounds fun to me.
Yeah, I think it's actually.
I really like westerns,
but I also think it's supposed to be more of a comedy because Kurt Russell.
Sometimes Kurt Russell isn't in comedies though.
Sometimes, yes.
Like I would say, arguably, The Hateful Eight. That is not a comedy.
I'm saying.
So don't assume it's going to be a comedy.
I thought I could have sworn I read somewhere that it's either way.
I would like to watch that.
Wheel.
It's in the picker wheel. The wacky wheel.
Like the wacky wheel.
I don't like the picker wheel.
Wacky wheel makes me think I'm like on a kids like cartoon show or like we're gonna pick on the wacky wheel, kids. Like Blue's Clues.
Animated episodes.
What?
Hey, we can have animated episodes, or we're cartoons with the wacky wheel.
Okay, if you want to put in the time and effort for animation, you go ahead and do that.
Why do that when I could grease the wheels of capitalism and pay someone to do it for me?
If you want to pay someone to do it for you, go ahead.
No, we don't have to do that.
Okay. Anything else you can think of you want to add for the true history of the Kelly Gang? Okay, would you recommend it?
Would I recommend? I don't know. But I would have to know the person well.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed this. I did. I know it feels like I'm dumping on this, but I did enjoy it. Like I like movies that are slow and methodical. If there's a point for it to be that way. There are times in this movie where it doesn't feel like it needs to be that way. Yeah. And I feel like you have to know the person well enough to where they would also tolerate, I guess is the best word, that kind of a pace were I to recommend it to them. So yes, but with asterisks.
Yeah. Same. I would also rate it like a
I was gonna say, what out of 5 would you give this?
rating half stars. I'd give it a 3 out of 5, maybe 3.5.
I have
Somewhere
down
around.
I have down 3.5 out of 5. The parts that are good are good. The parts that are confusing and strange are more than I would like them to be.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I would say 3 to 3.5, somewhere around there.
Other than what we've already mentioned, if you were on the editing team for this movie, how would you have improved it?
Um,
Like, would you add something? Would you take something away?
I I think
Granted, I
it's
don't think
I
a
think it's
studio would release an hour-long movie,
no.
so you
I
can't take
think
out
it's
all of it.
less. I think it's less a editing choice and more a conceptual story choice.
Go on.
Well, you like lean into the microphone. Go on. I think again, maybe it's the true history is what it was, and that's not as interesting. I would change names and make it not specifically Ned Kelly. You could say it's based on it, and do something a lot more, I think, interesting with it. That
Yeah,
is probably what I would.
I feel like if you
I don't
took
know if
this out
that's
of the realm of,
bastardizing like the story.
well, yes and no. I feel like this could have been just quickened up, or since there are some things here which I don't think happened,
Yes.
like there are
Yes.
things here that are beyond the realm of reality. You could have added in more gunfights. You could have added in more action set pieces,
And
or at least made some of the earlier scenes more interesting.
yeah,
Because clearly they weren't completely dedicated to being 100% biographically accurate. You could have added more interesting things going on. And granted, a lot of that was kept out probably in service of the mood they wanted to set, but it didn't really land as well as I had hoped it would for me.
agreed.
Well, we're solid on our 3.5 out of 5, and that we would possibly recommend it if we knew the person. Why don't we find out what we're watching next week?
I'm gonna go to our picker wheel, and I'm gonna hit spin. Right now there are out of 101 potentials, there are 99 left.
Right, because we've yeah.
Alright, spinning. Clickety clack, clickety clack.
If only we had audio for this. Oh well. Quality is
And
what you're here for.
Anatomy of a Fall. Oof.
We are really sticking with the grim and serious this week.
I'm going to make a suggestion. We watch this the following week, and first we watch something a little lighter. I have a recommendation for Logan Lucky, as it is now on Netflix.
Well, why don't we spin again? We keep in mind Anatomy of a Fall for 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Should I hide the choice? Like make it not available anymore?
Sure.
Okay. Hide choice.
Because I do know what you're saying. I have heard that is a
It's
good
supposed to be
movie,
very good. That's why
and
I put
also
it on there.
really serious.
Yeah.
So
Well, just like I put that on, and I just watched On the Count of Three. Have you heard about this?
why would you put things you've already seen
No,
on
no,
the list?
I didn't put that one on the list.
Oh, then no, I don't know what that is.
It's very good, but it's about like a guy deciding he
Oh
wants.
wow, no man.
What?
Oh wow, no really, it's about a guy.
And he decides he wants to kill himself, and his friend is like, "Oh, I also want to kill myself. Let's kill each other at the same time." And it's them like living one last day. It's good, but it's rough. And I was like, "Oh,
Why would you watch that?
it was really good."
That's like saying, you know what? I'm in a good mood. Let's watch Blue Valentine.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I'm spinning again. This is maybe hopefully something lighter. 9
Riveting,
days.
folks.
Oh, I put that on. I don't think it's actually available anymore. It's like 70 minutes, and it's like interviews with 9 different people, like 9 different little short stories, and it's all like actors. It's not them being themselves, it's them being characters. But I'm going
That
to
I mean, it might be good. That sounds incredibly uninteresting to me.
hide this choice.
Thank you very much.
Granted, I think again I put it on there. I don't think it's actually available anywhere.
As in, what do you mean?
I think we would have to pay to watch.
Based on concept, I don't feel like that deserves my money.
1917, Netflix.
We are back again with George McKay.
I, I want to watch this.
Do you want to intentionally choose something with a little bit more levity?
Yes, that's why I'll make my suggestion.
All right, we'll do Logan Lucky, and then we're going to do Anatomy of a
Anatomy of
Fall.
a Fall. I'm going to hit done, which will save 1917, so we can still pick it again at some point.
Sure. Because having seen that in theaters, that is a great movie, and it
I
is
know
rough.
it's really good,
It is a rough watch.
but yes, I know it's supposed to be a rough watch.
It's an accurate portrayal of World War One. There's not a whole lot of light moments.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a check mark saying we are watching Logan Lucky, and that'll take it off the wheel. So we'll watch that next, and then from there we'll watch Anatomy of a Fall. And folks, because Hayden and I's schedule doesn't always line up, we might batch record some of this stuff. So we might watch another movie this evening and talk about another one, but we might release them staggered out that way.
We don't need to ruin the magic. Let's not reveal behind the curtain.
I'm an honest man. What can I say? Hush.
I'm an honest man
Hush.
too. Hey, hey now. Hey.
I hate you. You do it.
Okay. Let's start the episode.
All right. Then episode 11 of the Movie Bros podcast. Thanks for listening. Make suggestions. Follow up on Instagram. Hit us on all the Spotify jingle jangles of the bell.
Spotify jingle jangle. What you said.
It's going off the rails, folks.
Going off the rails. This has been the true history of the Kelly Gang. I've been Hayden. That's been Duncan. Thank you for joining us. We hope to catch you again next time.